Dobrodošli u 19. epizodu podcasta Nekrin i ova epizoda je veoma posebna iz više razloga. Moja današnja sagovornica nije sa ovog govornog područja, tako da će cela emisija biti, ceo razgovor odnosno biti na engleskom jeziku i verujem da većina vas će uspeti da razume o onome o čemu ćemo pričati. Moj engleski nije savršen, tako da ću se izviniti odmah na nekim greškama koje bude, ali mislim da to neće uticati na kvalitet razgovora i na sve one poruke koje treba da čujete. So my today guest is an internationally recognized parenting and child expert and speaker who has spoken in 19 countries and 5 continents. She's an educational psychologist who offers realistic research-based advice called from career working with over 1 million parents and educators from all over the world. She's also best-selling and award-winning author of 24 books translated into 19 languages. And what I can reveal is that one publishing house from Serbia negotiating about rights to translate and publish her books here in Serbia, and that would be very, very wonderful opportunity for all of us to read that fabulous books. And some of her books are Nobody Likes Me, Everybody Hates Me, No More Misbehaving, Don't Give Me That Attitude. And there is one new book which is published in the March. It's a Drivers, and that is the book about which we are talking about lately. But she served as a consultant to schools and corporations, and her work in violence prevention and bullying has been implemented in hundreds of schools worldwide. She blends 40 years of teaching and consulting experience with latest scientists to offer sound, realistic advice to parents, teachers, and child advocates about helping children thrive. She is Dr. Michele Borba. Dr. Michele, hello, and I'm very honored and grateful for this conversation.
Oh, I'm the one honored. You have no idea how much I love your country, your people. I was just there 6 months ago. I fell in love with you all. So thank you for letting me speak with you.
Oh, that is wonderful, and I can't wait for you to come over again. So we can do this conversation live, and we have, so many things to share together.
Oh, my bags are packed. Believe me, I would love to meet you in person.
Oh, that is so wonderful.
I think what I learned from being all over the world is that we parents share so much more in common than we think. We love our children desperately. We want so much for them to thrive and to do well. And that's why I'm so glad to be talking to you, because I think we're raising our kids in a very uncertain, tough time, and we need to rethink what we do and how we raise them so we can help them be the best they can be.
I'm totally agree with you, and I see that how many things we do it wrongly, but not because we don't love our kids, because we love them and we want the best of them. But like you said, this is really tough time, and for the kids, and for our parents, because all these new technologies, all these new things are also new for us, and it is hard for us to, let's say, to find the good way how to parenting. And the parenting is so changed during, let's say 20 years ago. It's not the same type of parenting like our parents did as we did do. So I think that is the first thing, that it is different. And for us, it is very hard to understand how child are the different also.
You're so right on that. I think the one thing we need to keep in mind is that the children have not changed. They have the same basic needs. They need to be loved. They need to feel safe. They need to feel they belong. They need to feel competent. But the world we're raising them in has changed. It's more technologically based. It's more digitally driven. It's more competitive. Unfortunately, it's more polarized. It's also very uncertain and anxious. But the good news is there's good news. The science is on our side, that all we need to do as parents is know what the research says on resilience, that our children aren't born with being resilient. We need to teach a little bit different skill set. And when we do, we're going to be able to help our children meet the challenges that they're sure to face now or the rest of their lives.
Yes, that is totally true. And I think that you're right. Well, we parents need to, let's say, re-educate ourselves about the world, about the everything what is happening in the world now, and that is really good. The things that you said, that kids are not changed. We are the one who've changed.
Yes. And so that's the first thing. When I was writing Thrivers, actually this book took me the longest. It's been a long journey to write it because I kept looking at the research. And the first thing I noticed when I talk to parents is many of them think that the ability to bounce back or be resilient is locked into your IQ or your culture or your how smart you are in school, when all of the research now says no, it's a whole different skill set. It doesn't mean it has to be hard, but it needs to be something that we put into our parenting agendas the moment our kids are born. I'm going to help my child learn to thrive. And the first thing is we parents need to model resilience ourselves, because the best learning tool is always for our children to watch us. So maybe the first question is, if my child had only my behavior to watch, would he be watching someone who is positive about life? I can get through it. We can do it. Or, oh my gosh, this was a tough day, but I'll take a deep breath. Those are the kind of things that our kids need desperately, because they need to have some hope and optimism about life. And that's from our behavior.
Yes, I'm totally agree with you. And I see that the parents, that the kids on my TikTok who was connecting with me, they say the biggest things, the biggest worries they have is the misunderstanding with their parents. And the one common things that a lot of them were saying about is like, why the parents mandating from us the one thing and they are doing the opposite. That makes them very confused, and they're about that really and we parents don't realize that the kids are learning while they're watching at us.
That's exactly what the science says. I think what we do is underrate how powerful we are as difference makers. But it's the simple little everyday things we do. We put so much time and energy into the big stuff, thinking that's what's going to make the difference. But what we do know now, it's everyday simple things. For instance, when I was writing Thrivers, I found amazing stories all over the world. And one of the most amazing stories was an 85-year-old journalist who contacted me, and she wanted to interview me about resilience. And I said, wait a minute, didn't you grow up in Great Britain during World War II, during a war and every night a blitz and hearing bombings go off? How did you survive and become resilient? And the most interesting comment she said was, I don't remember the bombings. I said, how could you not remember the bombings? She said, oh, I remember the air raid sirens. But then the moment afterwards, I remember my parents pulling the black drapes, and then I remember us all singing and playing games. We were all relaxed, and we'd all sing. Mm-hmm. She said, to this moment, she says, it's the first time I realized it was my parents who were the strong ones. And that's why we all survived, yes, and why we made it through, because we were strong. Now, there are going to be tough times. Please, these are really tough times. But maybe the first step on our new parenting agenda is say, what do I want to model to my child? Or is that one little thing I want to turn up in myself or tune up? And maybe it's the simple thing you can do, many kids said it's one line that their parents keep saying over and over again. Not once, said a teenager, but if they keep saying it like, we got this, or we'll get through it, remember, we're strong together. But if you keep saying that one little line, how powerful. Pretty soon, your message becomes your child's inner voice, and your child starts saying that to himself. Oh, that's one of the simplest ways to build hope and optimism so he can counter the anxiety and the tough stuff he's seeing, particularly in the news. And he's going to be able to say instead, I'm going to stop the worry. Instead, I'm going to say, we got this. I'll get through it. It's going to be okay.
So we just need to reverse the words, because here what I can say that usually we parents are saying the negative things to our kids.
Yes.
So like repeating constantly some negative things to our kids, that becomes the things that they think about themselves. So if we are saying so many times to our kid, you are dumb, you are not worthy, you are not like this and that, after sometimes they will think about themselves at that way. So we just need to use the positive words to tell what is the good in them because of what they are worthy and what is their uniqueness and strength. And I think that that is what you are suggesting that we parents can do.
Yes. Here's why. I'm nodding up and down, and you can't see my head going nodding. Yes, 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 yes. But here's why. When I looked at all the research on resilient children, and it doesn't make any difference where they're being raised in the world, they have something in common. One of the things that science says they have in common is a parent who refuses to give up on them. That's what we already have. We love our kids. But the second thing they have are protective buffers. They've learned skills like, I've got this, that voice thing that they can say inside their head. Or when they're faced with a problem, they don't wait for their parent to solve it for them. Their parent has told them along the way, you got this, sweetie. Or, yeah, I know that's a problem, so let's sit down and you tell mommy what's bothering you, and let's brainstorm. Or let's think of 1 or 2 or 3 different solutions you can do differently next time. And if you keep doing that every time, you can start that when they're 2. What happens along the way is that pretty soon that child faces a challenge and he says, I got this. Here's what I'll do instead. They're open to possibilities and solutions, and they don't wait for us to rescue them. So another thing that we need to do is start stepping back from always wanting to solve every problem for them. Because when those big moments come, when they do face the challenge, they need to be able to have that mindset that says, it's okay. I won't let it bother me. I'll figure out another way around it or through it. And that's a core that we do every single day in our parenting. Not like one lesson, okay, it's 6 o'clock and it's Wednesday, we're going to talk about problem solving. But we decide that anytime there's a problem, anytime you have a problem, you let your child know it's okay to make a mistake. Everybody makes a mistake. It's what I'm going to do differently next time, how I'm going to solve it, and I can figure it out. I just need to storm my brain and come up with a different idea. There's another possibility of another thing that we can do.
Yes, that is a wonderful suggestion and advice for the parents. I remember that my father, for example, when I was the child and when I was thinking about something and I want something to do, he all the time told me the consequences.
Yep.
What he's about thinking that is better for me, and what are the consequences of the things that if I do it in my way. But he all the time he will let me to choose. And if he knows, the many times he knows that I will, hit the wall, but he let me. He told me, and you're like, okay. Do it by yourself and, see it that the wall is very hard. So I had the really good examples of the parents. So I was blessed because of that. And I really tried for my kids to use the same method, but sometimes and very often I do the opposite things, like we all do, because we think that we know better, and because you say we think that we need to protect them from everything, even when they know how to handle something.
Yes. Well, first, you have a smart father. It was a wonderful story.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Because the other thing your father did that is a key to resilient children, or what I call a thriver, a child who says, I got this, is they have this thing called agency, or a feeling of control, that I've got the power inside me or the confidence to be able to do it. Now, it doesn't mean that we're not going to help our kids along the way, or when they're failing in math, we're not going to get them a tutor. But we also need to be very careful on not always, the term is called lawnmowering, which means you always try to take your lawnmower and smooth everything over. And if there's a mistake, you rush in and helicopter and solve it for the child. And what we now know is that if we keep doing that, you rob your child of resilience. And in a very uncertain world, that's what your child needs, the ability to say, I've got it. And you know what? We can start that even when our kids are 2. I have a 2-year-old grandson. He was here this weekend. And in the United States, we have 4th of July and fireworks that are huge and noisy and beautiful, but we celebrate the 4th of July. Well, I know with 2-year-olds, that can be kind of scary. So I remember telling Charlie, his name, Charlie, my dog gets really, really scared. So if you see my dog start to shake, you say to him, Obi, it's okay, it's going to get better. And I kept saying that. The fascinating thing is, oh gosh, the fireworks started. I can see Charlie start to shake a little bit. He immediately turned to my dog, Obi, and said, it's okay, Obi. It's okay. You can get through it. It's going to be okay. And I went, oh, good. Then Charlie turns to his mother and said, I'm talking to my brain, Mom. I'm telling my brain it's going to be okay. And I went, oh, gosh, how gorgeous is that? 2.5. But see, we wait too late to teach our children. They are little sponges. They're sponges, and they pick these things up. And we don't need to do too much. But we need to repeat the stuff over and over until Charlie can say, I'm telling my brain, Mom. I'm telling my brain.
Yes, wonderful. And what I know, and from my parenting experience, and for the other kids, because I'm so in love with the kids, and all of my friends, when they needed someone to nanny for their kids, I was the one like, okay, I will take care of them. And they're really so good with the kids, and kids are very good with me. So I know that when my kids was the young and everything, I see that they love to be the hero, to show that they are, brave and daring. So we just need to give them opportunity to be a hero to someone else, and for themselves also.
Yes, and here's what we need to do on the hero. There's quiet heroes and there's loud heroes. Some kids are shyer heroes and some kids are noisy heroes, and both kids are fine. But one thing we also have to do is not speak for our kids. The fascinating thing is there's really interesting research at age 2 that when our children are a little shyer at 2 and we speak for them, or 3, and say, here's what he means, or this is what he wants to say, our children become meeker and meeker and shyer. So maybe the rule is don't speak for your child. Or when they may be a little quieter and maybe their friends getting picked on in school, there's an acronym in Thrivers that's called CALM, C-A-L-M. C-A-L-M, and it's great for bigger kids. Anytime you're being picked on, or your friend is being picked on, or you see something that's not doing right, stay cool, take a deep breath, because you're taken more seriously if you look confident. A is practice with your child some comeback lines. You practice them slowly and safely at home, like, that's not right, or stop that, or don't do that to him. makes no difference what it is, but those are A, assertive lines. L is really important. L is look the person in the eye when you're talking. Our kids are so digital and they're so used to looking at their phones, they don't use the eye contact. And so they don't look confident. So you teach your child, always look at the color of the talker's eyes, or look up right at the bridge of the kid's nose when you want to say, stop it, and you'll be taken more seriously. And M is the final thing. M is make your voice sound like you mean it. Listen to mommy's voice. Stop it. Now listen to mommy's voice. Stop it. Which one do you think your friend is going to think is more serious? Yeah, it's going to be strong. Now, you practice each of those 4 things, and maybe it'll take you 2 years to practice. You'll end up with a little hero who can stand up and speak out for himself or for others, and that's a resilient child as well.
Yes, and I think that when you're mentioning with eye contact, that is the first thing that we as parents need to practice with our kids while they are talking to us.
Yes.
Because I know that every time when I have conversation, my kids all the time when they are looking around, they said, no, look at me. Here am I.
Yes.
Do not look, beside you or looking at your phone or somewhere else. You need to look at my eye when I'm speaking to you. And the one thing that I see that is problem here, like where parents they don't respect the kids, and they don't let's say respect, but when they are talking to kids, they don't talk with respect.
Oh.
And I see why with that is a really big problem to kids. Huge.
So let's take a couple of those issues, because one of the things we know about children who have a thriving ability or resilience is they have empathy, or the ability to feel with another person. And because social competence, or the ability to get along with others, seems to be one of the most highly correlated traits of resilient kids. When they have a problem, they can seek out another person, and that's going to help them get through a problem. But it starts at home. So the first thing we as parents need to do is listen to our kids. And how you do that? Yeah, we look at them eye to eye. But the second thing is we put down our cell phones. You know that 66% of teens say that we parents are the ones that are using our cell phones too much, not them. So you go to a restaurant.
Oh, I'm sure. I can relate myself with it. Every time when I'm sorry for interrupt you, but every time when I want to say my kids, you're using your phone too much, I was thinking about myself. Oh my God! First, you need to fix yourself before you are telling to them not to do that, because it's not good example. I'm not good example for them when I'm doing it.
We also don't listen as a society anymore. We don't listen to each other as a family. And a simple way you can do that is hopefully at a family meal. So every night you're sitting at a table together and you're sharing meals. But if not, any time that you have a connection together every day at the same time, each place, doesn't make any difference where it is. But here's another simple little idea. And that is, when you talk to one another, cell phones are never allowed at the table. It's in a corner in the back drawer, and close it. The second thing is, when the person talks, everyone in the family looks at the person in the eye. And the third thing, I love this idea as your kids get older, and you parent, and that is, if you want to say something, you have to repeat what your child just said, or the person before you just said. What's one thing? Well, thank you for sharing. That was really interesting, because you just said, I find that kids don't listen because they're so into what they want to say that they don't hear what the other person says. And the real seeds of empathy and social connection is just back and forth. It's a dialogue, not a monologue. We need to practice that at home.
Yes, and one thing I think that I saw in one of your interviews, that you were talking about how we can build empathy to children, to the kid. And I know that my older son, let's say that he was a little bit narcissistic when he was a little, and I saw that. And the one thing that I was constantly doing to him is when he done something wrong to the other kids or to other person from the family, never mind, I all the time will ask him, how would you feel if you were at that place?
Yes.
And every time he was like, I wouldn't love it. So that was my way of making him more empathic. And I saw that you are totally agree with that type of conversation with this kind of the kids.
Let's talk empathy. I'm so passionate about it, and the science is on our side. Our children are hardwired for empathy, but unless we are intentional about cultivating it, it lies dormant. And we're seeing a worldwide trend of teens going down in empathy around the world because they're raised to be more narcissistic, and digital-driven stuff is taking it down. So how do you do it? Number one is start talking feelings with your kids at a much younger age, because you can't feel with another person unless you can turn and go, Daddy looks stressed, or Mommy sounds upset, or Grandma looks depressed, unless they know those words. By the way, we do a far better job of talking feelings with our daughters at age 2 than we do with our sons at age 2. We as moms don't talk feelings with our sons. So talk feelings. And just as you're reading books together, talk, how would you feel? How does she feel? And then after a while, as your kid gets older and he knows those feelings, how would you feel? You flip it to, how does she feel? And then you ask, what does she need? What does he need? And what you'll begin to do is have a child, is just as you're reading books together or watching a movie together, or coming in and your child is upset because someone's picked on him, or he hasn't been so good to a friend and he's been picking on the buddy. You keep asking that question. Martin Hoffman said, how would you feel and what do you need? Are one of the best ways to raise an empathetic child, no matter what the age of the child. See, simple little things, if we do it on a routine basis, will help our kids become resilient and empathetic. Feels plus needs.
Yes, and we see that in the latest years how empathy is very, very much important. And we more now talking about emotional intelligence.
Yes.
And the lot of the parents still doesn't understand what that really means. And in your Unselfie book, you talked about the increased number of narcissism and the depth of empathy. So we know that empathy requires an open heart. So is it possible that we parents who are empathetic and who suffered because of it during our life now tries to make our kids less empathetic? Is it possible, maybe?
Yes, it could be, because there was a very interesting Mother Teresa. I remember reading something that she said that it was so powerful. She said, if I looked at all the starving children that were hurting, and that's sometimes what we do when we have suffered, she said, I would give up. And so I don't. Instead, I give myself permission to only look to one. That alone can be very, very helpful. If we try to help our children do something giving back to the world, by the way, giving and not getting is one of the best ways to not only reduce a child's stress, but also boost their empathy. Find a cause, but have them do it face to face. So it could be with one homeless man, or the neighbor next door looks so lonely. What can we do? Well, maybe what we could do is bake some cookies and you can deliver it to her. Oh, how did you feel when you saw her face smile? It made me feel so good, Mom. See, those are the moments that we know activate empathy, but it starts face to face with one. We also know that our own suffering, and you in your own country have gone through a lot of suffering, horrific. And so one of the things we try to do is protect ourselves from it. But when we take our empathy down, we now know our stress goes up and we are more likely to be more burned out.
Yes.
So we actually counter what we could be doing to help ourselves.
Yes, and exactly that is what I mean, because I hear that a lot of some and relatives and friends whom I know, the most of the time they will say, "Oh, I will stop doing this. It's not good to be the good person, and I will stop doing it." And a lot of them also good those kind of advices to their kids, And we forget that we are learned and raised in the world who is all about taking from others and taking from nature and not giving anything back. But everything is changed now, and we need to restore that balance and give it back. So we know that if we have a lot of love, we will multiply it while sharing it.
I love what you just said, the teary-eyed here, because that's what's going to make a more not only humane world, but actually, I bet every parent has the same concerns and wants and hopes for their children. They want them to be happy, and they want them to be healthy. If you want a healthy, happy child, one of the highest correlations to health and happiness is empathy. We see it as soft and fluffy, but we now know as people who give, not get, are healthier. People who are more likely to reach out and be kinder towards others are happier. So there's a lot, and more resilient. You're more likely to bounce back and say, I know I had a problem there, and oh my gosh, the obstacles are unbelievable. But you look at people who have gone through enormous suffering, like so many of your country people. But when you look at those who have been able to bounce back through it, it's usually the people who find a passionate, meaningful cause and be able to go with it and go, okay, I'm going to do something instead. There was a group of children in Chicago, teens, that were so worried about during COVID, the quarantine and the isolation of some of their friends that they knew their friends were in depression. And now they said, we're so worried that they're going to be even more depressed because they can't go to school and they're all by themselves. I said, so what are you going to do? They said, we got so worried, we decided to start quarantine gift bags. I said, what does that mean you did? They said, well, a group of about 4 of us, we can't see each other, but we send text chains to one another. We put together little lunch bags, and each person does a different thing in their own home, like write a handwritten note that we miss you, or decorate the front of the bag, or make some handmade cookies, and then the other person drops the gift bag in their person's mailbox or in their doorstep. I said, how does it go? He said, you won't believe what happens. Every single kid that we've done that to calls us up crying and sobbing. They're so grateful for what we've done. And then you know what happens to us? We start crying and sobbing because we know we made a difference and we have to do it again and again. And I went, oh my gosh, how glorious is that? One simple little thing, but it's giving, not getting. And they all said, it helps our stress. It makes us feel better because we know we can make the world a better place even though the place is really dismal and dim right now. Empathy.
This makes me cry, really.
Yeah.
And that is so wonderful. And we just need to tell our kids that it is so good and so powerful to be nice, to be kind, to do some good deeds toward others. And because, when we do something what is good only for us, that is the happiness that we share only with ourselves. But when we doing something really good for others, and their happiness becomes our happiness too. So it is multiplied.
Yes.
And everything is about sharing, and everything is about encourage our kids to share and to express their emotions.
Yes.
And I see that here is the problem, that because we are taught and we teach our kids not to show emotions. If you show your emotions, you are the weak. And the kids learned how to take all those emotions in themselves. And now we just need to show them that it is really nice and wonderful to be kind and to make a good impact to whole world.
Yes, I think we've got to reframe what we're doing here, because when we look at resilience, we've talked about helping our children learn to be more confident in themselves. We've talked a little bit about empathy, and we've talked a little bit about hope and optimism. But I think we need to talk about two things in particular, particularly after a year that our children have endured, and that has been dismal all around the world with a pandemic. When you only see the doom and gloom in the world, only see the war, you only see the COVID, you only see the daily death count, it starts to build in you a sense of pessimism, and there's no hope for the world. And that becomes depression and stress and anxiety. And by the way, we are seeing unprecedented rise in stress and anxiety of our children everywhere around the world right now. Here's one simple thing you can also do, though. You talked a little bit about heroes. I talked about kids who were doing those quarantine gift bags. If every night we parents looked in the back pages of our newspaper, or we did a Google search and we looked for kids who are doing the good things, or good news reports about children, there are amazing things that kids around the world are doing. They're real children at every age, and there are news stories happening about them. You then print that story out, and you paste it on an index card, and every night around the dinner hour or right before your child goes to bed, you give them a good news report. Hey, did you hear about, they always have to be true stories. Let me give you one. Christian Bucks, he's a second grader in Philadelphia. And he's so concerned right now about how many of his friends are lonely. They don't have friends. They don't know how to get along. They've been by themselves for so long, and they sit on a playground and they don't know how to play. So he goes to his teachers and says, we should put a bench on the playground. And so when you're lonely, you sit on the bench, and the rest of us can look and go, oh, he's lonely. He needs a friend. I'll sit on the bench next to him. Okay. Christian Bucks, second grader, got a bench. It's on his school playground. Now, the Philadelphia Gazette newspaper came and took pictures of him, and it went viral. Children all over the world read about Christian Bucks, and every kid all over the world wants to put a buddy bench on their playground because of what a second grader did. That's the kind of stories kids need. They need the stories that give you a sense of hope that there's good stuff in the world, and wow, if you feel depressed like Christian did, you can do something about it. That's a resilient thriver, and those are the kind of stories that we have to instill hope and optimism in our kids' hearts.
Oh, that is a wonderful story. I didn't heard about it, and I think that the kids here don't hear so many good examples and so many good deeds, what the kids during this pandemic and from the whole over the world are doing, and they really need more of that, what you say and mention, realistic stories.
Yeah.
And yesterday on my TikTok, I shared some from your drivers. I share 7 essential character traits. So I asked, and the kids were replying in the comments, and I will share with you some of them and the way they are seeing themselves. What do they have from the 7 of them? And one girl, she said that she is lack of self-control and empathy. And another child said his lack of optimism, self-confidence, and perseverance. The 3 of them said they don't have any of. And I think that self-confidence is something they struggle the most. Mm-hmm. So can you please help them and share with them how can they boost their self-confidence?
First of all, you've just proven that one of the best ways to figure out what kids need is to ask them. I think we overlook that.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
I was writing Thrivers, I interviewed 100 teens, all different kinds of kids, one-on-one for an hour each, and they were mind-boggling of the kinds of things they said, and they said exactly the same thing. The first thing that they almost always say is that they're very stressed, but nobody's teaching them how to reduce the stress. So it keeps mounting, or their parents say, just tough it out and don't say anything about it. So what happens is the stress continues to build and goes into anxiety until it goes into depression. What we've got to do is teach our kids a couple of things that really are easy. The first thing is, and you can do this, by the way, as a parent through your family over the next 2 weeks. Walk around your house and help each of your children and you understand what your stress signs are. Each kid is different. They wait until meltdown, or they wait until it rises too much and then it's too late. Some kids you can say, oh, I notice you're starting to get stressed because your hands are in a little fist. Or I see that your heart is starting to pound a little more. Or you're starting to grind your teeth. You're not disciplining them. You're just simply pointing out, this is what you do when you start to get stressed. That's a gold mine. Because if you know what your stress signs are, what'll happen is now you can immediately talk yourself down. I worked on U.S. Army bases with Navy SEALs, which we consider one of the most elite forces in the world. And they told me that they are using all different kinds of stress management strategies so that they can get through some very tough, adverse situations. The most elite forces in the world. I said, what are you doing differently? They said, we're retraining our brains. And the first thing we do is spend a couple of weeks recognizing what our stress signs are. We point them out to each other because it doesn't do any good if you wait too late. So we understand each other's stress. The moment we feel the stress coming in, we tell ourselves, chill out, or calm down, or we start saying, like my little 2-year-old grandson, it's going to be okay. Whatever it is, come up with something you can say inside your head. And then the third thing, this is a wonderful thing, and that is we do 1-2 breaths, which are the fastest way to relax. Actually, getting oxygen into your brain is the fastest way to chill out, and it doesn't cost anything. You take a slow, deep breath from real deep in your abdomen, like you're riding up an elevator, or you're going straight up the breath, sway slowly up to your brain. Then you hold it, and you slowly let it out. Slowly let it out again, but your exhale is twice as long as your inhale. The Navy SEALs told me if you would teach that to kids alone, it helps us enormously to get rid of the stress. We can think stronger, we can get through adversity, and it's actually rewiring our brain. It's called a 1-2 breath. You just have to practice it over and over and over and over and over and over until your kids can do it without you.
Yes, wonderful, because we just forget how wonderful and easy tools we have already inside of ourselves. That is like breathing. We all think that we know how to breathe, but we forget how important is that while we are under stress. And I think that is a good thing that you are saying about the notice the things that we are doing and how we are acting when we are in distress. So the one thing that we can notice is the way we are breathing then. It is totally different than we are breathing in the normal state, normal conditions.
Yes. A couple of points on that, because maybe the simplest thing for every family to do over just this month is just practicing 1-2 breaths together. And ideas. First of all, you can do that at very, very young ages. I watched a mom do that with her 3-year-old. And he started to go into a temper tantrum. And she said, breathe, Gray, breathe, take a big breath. And all of a sudden, I watched this kid take a deep breath. I said, how long did it take you to get your kid to do that? She said, weeks. But I kept practicing calmly, telling him to breathe and breathe. He's starting to do that now on his own. Little guys, very often they don't understand where the breath comes from. And so you put your back to your child's back, you lock elbows together, and you say, watch mommy, just follow mommy. You do 1-2 breath, and your child will follow your breath with his back. So he understands slow, up. Hold it. Now slowly let it out. Ooh, no, low, 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 low. If your child breathes too quickly, put a straw or a feather on the top of a table and tell him, breathe, breathe, blow on it. Oh, don't let it bump. Don't let it jump. It's got to be slow and steady. That's the kind of breath that'll help you stay calm. Little kids, you can do bubble blowing. Blow your meanie away real far, 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 far. He'll start to get the practice that bubbles get bigger and bigger and bigger when your breath is slower and deeper. And those are the kind of strategies you can use until your child can finally do it without you. You know, one teen told me, the biggest mistake that parents make is they teach us these things and then they don't have us practice them. And you don't learn it one time. We got to keep practicing and practicing and practicing until we can finally do it without you. We're all stressed. We need to know what to do right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just, this is very wonderful, and I think that kids will love it because while they are learning, it will be very fun for them, you know. That is like some kind of challenge for them not to let feather to blow up and everything. So I just remember one thing that I was doing with my youngest son. Well, when he was about 1.5 years, I saw that he was very angry when he get up. And it was like really, really angry that he's starting to screaming at all of us, like, do not look at me and everything. And I was like, uh-oh, I will change you this. Mm-hmm. And then the thing I was doing is, while it took me 1 whole year, but I was really up to that, you know, to help him to solve that problem, because I see that would cause him so much trouble in relationships with other people, with the girls later and everything. So I wanted to help him to change that. So every morning when I need to wake him up, when he needs to go to the kindergarten, I will make it was like some kind of the play that we are playing with our kids. And the first things that he's doing when I'm doing that with fingers, like I will just move my fingers over his neck and everything and like tickle him.
Oh.
And the first expression was the smiling. So it took me 1 year, and then I stopped the day I saw him that he get up alone and with a smile on his face and like, good morning and everything. That was the day I know that was the good thing. So now that is the thing that he could do it without me.
I love that story because that's exactly what we need to do to implement. We've been talking about so many strategies during our little chat here. Thrivers has 300 ideas. Don't do them all. You choose one at a time. New behavior takes a minimum of 21 days of repetition. So why not choose one thing, like a 1-2 breath? And don't say, oh, I don't have time. It's 1 or 2 minutes a day. And if you keep repeating the same thing, maybe it's not 1-2 breath. Maybe it's, I got this. It's going to be okay. Or what's one more thing you can do differently next time? How are we going to solve it? Or maybe it's a good news report every night around the dinner hour, every single day. Find one little thing. And what you'll discover is after a while, your child will slowly begin to start doing it without you. That's exactly the moment when your child smiled. You knew you had it, and now you can, it's like, those are the parenting moments that are golden. You go, oh my gosh, I did something right. But you kept on doing it. That's why, Mom, you had tenacity.
Yes, and now he's almost 12. No, almost 13, I'm sorry. So for about 10 years, he is like never ever get up angry after that. Never. All the time he is smiling, even if he slept a little. You know, the teenagers now, they don't sleep enough.
Yeah.
like they are busy like playing games and everything and all of that. So even then, he's like, when I wake him up for school, he's like, okay, so nice, everything is good. So we just don't need to expect that miracles will happen during night.
Yeah.
We all need to put some effort, like parents, and the results will come from the kids, and that is for sure. We are so running out of time, and I wanted so many. I here wrote so many things that I would love to share with you, but
Aww.
we will need to do one more at least. One more conversation, because there is so many things that and so many topics that you are wonderful, the person with whom I can talk and who can tell all the wonderful tips, all the wonderful suggestions and advices to the parents, how to help their kids, how to help our kids to be the better persons, how to be successful. And I would love just for you to tell us that, well, that is something that I realized, that the grades are not that something that showing how someone will be successful or not, especially during this new 21st century. What is your way of not thinking, but the way your conclusions are about the grades at the school?
My conclusion is that we have put all our time and energy into the grades because we believe that is going to be the surest avenues to success. We do it because we love our children desperately. I'm not ever telling you don't stop helping your child succeed in a classroom, but I am saying you have got to add another skill set to helping your child be the best they can be. And that is the skills that boost resilience. It is a different world. I was telling you Croatia about a year ago, and I found something fascinating, that the moms in Croatia were so concerned about how much homework the kids were getting that as a group of moms together, they signed a huge petition across the country saying, stop giving so much homework so we have more time just to be with our kids and to let them play. That alone says we parents can make a difference, and that was fascinating to me. Thrivers are made, not born. That means we need to be a little more intentional about all of this. If we add it to our plate, the book Thrivers is going to help you, give you, here's what the science says. But then I hope what you do is just choose one little thing, or one little thing from today. Maybe it's teaching them 1-2 breathing, and do it every single day for 21 days. Or if it took you a year to get your kid to smile, that's what it's going to take. There is no timeline. It's just however long it is. Parenting is a journey, and we've got one time to do this right. There's no rewind button for parenting.
Oh, that is so true. And before, and since we figure out that, and since we are aware of that there is no way back, that makes a really big difference in our perspective and in our way how we are think that is healthy to raise our kids. And I was just mentioning about the grades because I see that the kids are mostly concerned about grades.
Yes.
And that may cause them so much stress. And this is good for the parents to know that it's not the only things that makes them successful.
One thing that kept coming up over and over from the teens I interviewed that was so hurtful is that they kept telling me, please tell my mom to say to me that I'm more than just a grade. She loves me not just because of my test score. I don't want to disappoint my mom or dad, but they put so much into my grade that I don't know if I can be all that they want me to be. I think we need to really let our kids know we love you for who you are, sweetie pie. I'm here for you.
Oh, yes. And that is the things that they really need to hear from us.
Yeah.
Because of the stress that caused to them, and we all know how that can provoke some other things like suicide and all other problems to the kids, and that is something that non-parents would love to deal with it. So I'm so happy, and I just will mention and once more so grateful for this conversation, and I'm so looking forward for your coming here to Serbia.
Oh.
To do this conversation all over again. Till then, I will practice my English even more.
Your English is wonderful. No. Aww.
Like I'm like those kids. Oh, not good enough.
Yeah, no, you're wonderful, and I just so enjoy talking to you.
Oh, me too, and I can't believe that almost 1 hour is how we are talking. So tell me, is there any message that would you love to share and to send to the parents and to the kids?
Yeah, I think the most important message is we are living in an unprecedented time. And if there's anything that we can learn from the horrors that we've been through in just the last year and all that you've been through, is that it's also a moment to reset our parenting, to think, what do our kids really need to be able to sustain themselves, to handle challenge, to be able to get through life, and to be solid, sustained human beings. I think it's the ability to thrive. So please, if we can add that to the plate, it's doable. All the research is on our side. It's not difficult. It's science-backed evidence practices that'll raise resilient kids. I think that's what we all need to put our energy into, and that's how we're going to raise a better world for our children.
Dr. Michele, thank you so much for this conversation and all this wonderful advice that you share with all our parents and with all kids who will listen to this episode. And if you would like to support this show, you can become the Patreon member, or you can follow my profile on social media, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And till the next listening, stay kind and brave. Hvala vam na slušanju i čujemo se uskoro sa novim gostom i sa novom temom.